Okay, so here's where we're at. So yesterday, what I did is I made this very attractive, particularly the colors, model of mine, which is the Centurion Palace of Solitude, and right next to my other creation. Remember this little guy? There it is, the Cubby triplets. Okay, I'm putting them all together. So, um, so that's what I did. That's what I did yesterday. And then the trick now is to get from that, which is the concept sketch. Okay, and here's the same thing, by the way. I just happened to redraw it. That's the same thing. Colors are a little bit nicer here. So to get from here over to here, which is where you're actually framing the thing. So in order to get from A to B, in order to get from the concept sketch to the frame model, you need to understand exactly how to draw just a regular wall. Okay, just a regular wall. So I'm going to get rid of a couple things here, and there we go. So this is just a regular wall. Now, Mr. Figuera, he kind of went through before Christmas and looked at a little bit of the anatomy of a wall, looked at a little bit about the spacing and that kind of thing, and so just as you know, you'll kind of, this will serve as a bit of a refresher, but then also to jump ahead and understand exactly how to build it. So I want you to understand a couple of things here before I start drawing. The first is are just some of the names here. So the pieces, the regular pieces here, these are called wall studs. Okay, wall studs, and bottom plate down there, top plate up here. Okay, bottom plate, top plate, and then down at the ends here. Okay, down at the ends here, I'm just going to jump inside. There we go. Okay, down at the ends here, you see this. You see how this looks kind of interesting. You've got that piece in the end. Okay, you've got the end stud there, so the stud on the end. Then you got this other piece here that's spun 90 degrees. So that is called an inside corner. Okay, just remember that it beefs up the corner. It allows you to nail or screw the drywall on that wall when there's another wall that comes in. But you'll understand more about this. This is called an inside corner. You will understand more about it when time comes and when we start putting the walls together. Okay, and then for the openings, so for window and door openings, let me back out here. For window and door openings, you've got the piece across the top, which is called a header. Okay, that's a header, and then you've got this piece here that holds up the header, and that's called a trimmer. Okay, and there we go. So that's called a trimmer. It holds up the header, and then you've got the king stud beside it. Okay, king stud beside it. So that piece that goes all the way up is called a king stud. That's a trimmer. That's a header. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing a wall, and I'm going to do it. I don't know if you notice this in SketchUp. It's a little bit wonky. The further you get from that center point there. Okay, where these three, where the blue line, the green line, and the red line, where those intersect, the further you get away from that, then it's a little bit more difficult to navigate. So I'm gonna move things around so I can draw close to there. Okay, did I hear something come through in the chat here? Oh, hi. Yeah, so Malcolm, just hang tight. Have a look at what we're doing because you're going to be doing some of the SketchUp stuff too. Okay, and I am presenting. All right, so I'm just going to shuffle things around here so that I can do some drawing closer to the intersection of the axes. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'll move it. I'm going to move it over here. Notice when I move things, whenever I move things, I always stay true to the axis. So I make sure that it's a green line. That way it stays on the axes and that kind of thing. Okay, these things over here. Look at that. I drew. This is from. This is a person who wanted to do radiused walls. Okay, she wanted to do a turret. A turret is like you know, those old castles that have the round walls and sort of the conical roof. That's called a turret. So she wanted to incorporate that kind of thing. See how I moved all these things all at the same time. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'm going to draw. So whatever I do here, this is what I want you doing, just to practice getting getting the hang of building a wall. Okay, so I'm going to build a wall that's like, let's see here. So I'm going to start to draw a rectangle. Okay, I'm going to draw the bottom plate of my wall. So I'm going to start to draw a bottom plate, and that bottom plate, let's make it about, let's make it 101 inches, just for argument's sake. So I'm going to type 101. Oops, I'm going to type 101, and I'm going to type, so hang on, 101, comma, now 3.5, okay? 101 and 3.5. Now, why 3.5? The reason is because what we're drawing here is we're drawing a 2x4, okay? So I don't know if you remember, but a 2x4 is 3.5 inches wide, and it's 1.5 or 1.5 in thickness. So that's what I just drew. If I took my tape measure here, and I look at the end here, so this is a 2x4. This is 3.5 inches wide. It is 1.5 inches high. Okay, and then the length is what the length is, whatever it is. Okay, now there's nothing that has to happen to this 2x4. This is the bottom plate of the wall, so it's basically done. Like I'm not gonna cut a curve in it or drill holes or anything, so it's done. So I'm gonna triple click, 1, 2, 3, make it a group, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying out the wall. Now. I mentioned this yesterday, okay, and we've talked about this before. Mr. Figuera talked a little bit about it before as well. So we talked about 16-inch centers. We talked about the spacing between the studs, okay? So if I take a tape measure here and I go down here, actually I'm going to take my dimension tool here, okay, and I'm going to start measuring. So from the end of the wall, okay, from the end of the wall to the center of the first stud, is 1'4". You see that? And also from the center of that stud, okay, which is right there, from the center of that stud to the center of this stud is also, let me just see if I can move that. No. Is also, there we go, 1'4". Okay. And this is important to know, really, really, really important to know, because this will mean that your plywood and drywall and insulation will all kind of fit. So from the end of the wall to the center of the first is 1'4", and then from the center to center of each one after that is similarly 1'4". Okay, let me do this. I'll do one more here. So from here to the center of this one, okay, is also 1'4", like that. Okay, and now for purpose of laying it out, so this kind of makes sense, but I am measuring to the centers. I'm not measuring to the edges, and I'm measuring to the centers just to make you understand that when you put the material on, the reason you're doing that is because when the material goes on here, like this plywood here, it ends up being in the center of a stud, just like that. Okay, see that? So the plywood or the drywall ends up being in the center of the stud. And so that's why we call this on-center spacing, or 16 inches on-center. That's what they call it. But for laying it out, like for actually building this, when you're laying it out with a pencil and a square and you're drawing lines on the wood, what you actually do is instead of marking the center, what you do is you mark the edges. And so to mark the edges, let me go around here. To mark the edges, I'm just going to get rid of this inside corner so it doesn't confuse you, okay? So to mark the edges, I'm going to take the same dimension tool, and I'm going to go from here to this edge here, okay? And that's 1'3¼ and then from that point on, okay, it's 1'4" edge to edge, 1'4" edge to edge, and so on. Okay, so you see that? So for laying this out, that 1'3¼ that's 15¼ inches. That's from the end of the wall to the edge of the first stud. Okay, and then from the edge of that one to the edge of that one is 16, which is the exact same thing as if I measured from the center to the center. Okay, it's the same dimension from the center to center, from the center of that one to the center of that one. It's the same dimension. Okay, 16 inches from center to center, or 16 inches from edge to edge. Okay, so let's use that information, and we're going to go over to the wall that I'm building over here. And here's my bottom plate. And so now I'm going to take my tape measure tool. Okay, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start laying out this plate. Okay, so from the end here, now remember what I said, we're going to go to the edge. We're not going to go to the center. We're going to go to the edge, because that's how you build stuff. You line it up with the edge. You make a pencil mark that represents the edge of a piece of material. Okay, so it was 1'3 1/4", which is 15 1/4, which is 15.25, and I hit enter. Okay, and so that gives me my starting point. And then after that, it was 1'4" or 16 inches from this line on. So I'm going to go 16 inches and enter like that. And so I'm going to place a stud on the right side of those lines. Now, how thick is a stud? Well, it's the same as the bottom plate. It is 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. And I'm going to take this rectangle tool here, and I'm going to draw a rectangle there. Now, I'm going to lift it up, okay? So I'm going to lift it up, and now just bear with me here, because I'm going to make this, this sounds strange, but watch this. And I think Mr. Figueroa might have touched on this. The height of this stud, I'm going to make it 92 5/8. Okay, 92 5/8. Now, why am I choosing that weird number, 92 5/8 of an inch? The reason is because that is called a pre-cut stud. You can walk into Home Depot and buy that, and it's a little bit cheaper than a 96-inch stud, which is 8 feet. And the thing about this, these are already cut so that if you just nail a wall together, you will end up with an 8-foot wall in a house. Okay, so these are called pre-cuts, and that's what I'm going to use for mine. So I'm going to make this a group, because that's all done. And now, watch this. So a little bit of magic here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it and copy it, right? So I'm going to grab it here, and I'm going to move it, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to place it just to the right of that line, just like that. Okay? And the next thing I'm going to move and copy the next one. Now, this is where the magic happens. Watch this. Just pay attention to this. So I'm going to place this one. So this is the third stud along. I'm going to place it by clicking, and then don't do anything else. And on your keyboard, hit multiply. So look in the bottom corner. See the X? I just made an X. Multiply by however many studs you want. And I'm not sure how many I want. I'm going to put like 8 in. Okay, I'm going to put 8. It's probably more than enough, but I can delete it. So times 8. So see that times 8? I'm going to hit times 8 and press the return key, which is the enter key. And look what happens. Okay, it gives me a ton of studs. And now I don't need all those studs. Okay, I'm going to keep one of them there. And okay, so I'm going to take that one that I kept, and I'm going to move it like this, right onto the end of the wall, like that. Okay, and that's almost done. So now I'm going to put a top plate on it. So I can take this bottom plate, and I'm going to move it up with the move tool. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to move and copy that bottom plate up. So I'm going to grab it here, start lifting it, hit the Option key on a Mac or a Control key on a PC, and I'm going to place it at the top like that. Okay, get rid of my guidelines. Okay, and that is a basic wall. Okay, that's a basic wall, and then there's a few things that we'll add, but basically, what I want you to do, and here's what you're gonna show me, or at least hand in. Let me grab the tape measure. So you're gonna show me that you're gonna show me the spacing here. Okay, so 1'3 1/4 is to there, and 1'4", and so on like that. Okay. There we go. And the end one, Like it doesn't matter about the end one. I don't really care what the distance is in there. Okay, it doesn't matter for the end one because you can make your wall whatever length you want. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Oh, actually, sorry, we have to add one more plate up top here. Okay, so there's a double plate on the top. Whoop, double plate up on the top. So I'm going to copy this one up and put it there like that. Okay, so double plate. So this is just a very basic wall, and you know what? I was going to have you do a little bit more complex, but we'll get there. Okay, I think I want to see that people know how to do this, and then we'll kind of take it from there. So what you do with this is now you take a screenshot of it, or you go up here and you export it as a PNG or whatever, and I will give you a space in. So here we are back in here. I'm going to add something right in here. I'm going to add an HC3 for you to hand that in. Okay. Where did SketchUp go? There we go. So I'll add a spot for you to hand it in, but that's what you're handing in. Okay. So you're going to take a screenshot of that, or you're going to hand it, or a PNG or whatever it is. I want the dimensions there, and let's make the thing. Where's the tape measure here? For length. Okay, so this is 8'5". I want you to make it at least 8'5" or more. Your choice. Okay, but get all the studs in the right spaces. This is crucial. Like if you don't have the studs in the right spot, then your wall basically doesn't work in terms of putting the material together. Okay, so this is the building block for what comes next. And when this is done, okay, and you show me that you can do that, then basically my next demonstration in drawing is I'm going to take, where's my building? I put my building somewhere over here, didn't I? I'm going to take my building, which is over there. Okay, I'm going to take this building and I'm going to start drawing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, I'm going to put a floor down, and I'm going to take one of the walls. So see this wall here, for instance? This wall here is a blank wall, and that's basically what I just drew. Okay, and so you're gonna draw. I would start with the easiest wall. So you would start with the easiest wall, and then work your way around. And here's the frame. So this is what I'm going to start drawing. Okay, I'm going to start drawing this wall here. So see this is the easy wall. That back wall is pretty easy, and then once we get those done, then we start moving into a wall that has a window, a wall that has a door, and then when all that's done, then we start talking about the roof. Okay, so so this is your mission. Like if you're ready for this, okay, if you're ready for this, you're going to copy what I just did, except you're just going to pick your own length, 8'5" or longer. Okay, and you're going to draw this, and I'll open up a spot for you to submit it. Okay, so listen, so that's the first of everything today.